I'm Larry O'Connor, and looky there, it's Tony Schaefer, Lieutenant Colonel.
How did I get here?
Sitting in for Brian Wilson, who's on vacation, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Larry.
And, here's what people do at New Year's. They start making their resolutions.
Right.
And what do people always want to do? They want to get their bodies in shape,
right,
and they want to get their bank accounts in shape.
That's right.
That's what they want. They want to fix their bad habits with regard to spending and saving and with regard to eating and exercise. Well, we're going to deal with the eating and exercise tomorrow. We've got a fitness guru who's going to be in here to sort of give us some pointers on how to jump out.
I'm doing pull-ups.
Like you need.
While
exactly.
I'm doing pull-ups, I'll be listening.
Exactly. You're doing pull-ups with 50-pound weights strapped to your ankles. But let's talk about your bank account with Ric Edelman. Of course, you know Ric Edelman. He's one of our stars here on WMAL. Happy New Year, Ric.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you two guys.
So, Ric, what are people trying to accomplish this new year, and how are you going to help them do it?
Well, you're hitting the two top points. It's either health or finance that people are trying to improve every year, and this year's no different at all. People want to get out of debt. People want to increase the amount of money they have saved. People want to do a better job with their investments, and that's where our focus is. The number one word that people are mentioning to us more than ever is retirement. People are thinking about it an awful lot. It's amazing how many people are still shell-shocked from 2008, even though that was now 7-8 years ago. People are still shell-shocked by it, although they're realizing, oh my goodness, I'm 8 years older than I was then. The clock's ticking. I can't put this off. I have to get on with it. And so that's where our focus is helping show people how to save for retirement.
So when you say retirement, I think most people, their default is their 401k or whatever IRA they may have started at some point, and they're always tied to the market. Is that a good strategy for? And I'm guessing the answer is the strategy is different depending on how old you are. Yeah.
Not really. I mean, the execution will vary depending on your age and circumstances, but the fundamental concept is really the same for everybody. And you're right. Most folks do associate the word investing with the market. And when they say the market, they're typically referring to the stock market. And that's a big misconception. It's a big error that many consumers make. Sure, there's no question that the stock market historically over long periods is the best performing asset class. You go back 100 years, 200 years, stocks have made more money than anything else. Real estate, bonds, gold, you name it, stocks beat it. But that's over very long periods. And you know the old adage, in the long run, we're all dead. So the fact that stocks did best over the long term doesn't do you a lot of good. If you turned 62 in 2007 and had all of your money in stocks, guess what? Your retirement was destroyed.
Well, let me ask you a question. My in-law, mother, she's 86. She just gave her daughter gold and said, hey, sit on this. It's not really worth as much as it was when we bought it, but it's something to help. How do you feel about the hard metals as part of a retirement plan? And as, I mean, obviously, when you get into your 80s, you got to start thinking about strategies to relieve yourself of things. But what's your view of that?
Clearly, precious metals belong in a diversified portfolio, and that's the point I was beginning to make. That stocks are an important element of your portfolio, but you shouldn't have 100% of your money in stocks.
Right.
When it comes to gold and precious metals, it shouldn't be more than 5% of your portfolio.
Huh.
So we find that when people do own gold, they own way too much of it. Same thing with real estate. We see people with 100% of their life savings in real estate, their home and other real estate properties. Real estate belongs in the portfolio, but no more than 10% of your assets. Unless you're a real estate business individual, meaning you're in the business of managing apartment buildings and such, which some people do just fine. But for the ordinary everyday investor, you shouldn't have too much of your money. You shouldn't have too many eggs in one basket. And that's the mistake that so many people make. One of the biggest services we provide to people is helping them realize what their allocation should look like. How much of your money should be in stocks versus bonds versus gold versus real estate, foreign securities, commodities, etc., to make sure you have a properly balanced and mixed portfolio on a global basis. That's how you avoid crises like '08 while simultaneously giving yourself the opportunity to achieve the financial results you're trying to get.
Our guest is WMAL superstar Ric Edelman. Of course, you hear him on the weekends here every weekend, and we're talking about how to meet your financial goals for 2016. And before people start investing, they got to get out of debt first, right? Don't you? What are some good pointers to eliminate that debt?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The first thing, it's actually number 2, is getting out of debt. The number 1 goal is to start saving in your retirement plan at work. Like you said, the 401k, or your TSP in the government, or 403b. You need to do that even before you're out of debt, for one simple reason. You're probably going to have debt your whole life. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards, student loans, whatever. If you wait to get rid of your debts, you'll never start to save. So start to save for retirement first. And then, once you've joined your 401k at work, now you can start tackling those other debts. And you're absolutely right. You can't build a mountain from a hole in the ground. So you got to get to break even. You got to get to ground zero before you can build that castle. And we work real heavily with folks trying to help them understand the proper role that debt plays. Debt's not always bad. Debt can be good. Debt can be very helpful. I mean, how many people wouldn't have been able to go to college without student loans, or buy a car, or buy a house? So debt can be good.
But that high-interest credit card debt.
That's really dangerous and scary. Or getting too much debt, buying too much of a house, or too expensive of a car, or too expensive of a college degree. So debt can be dangerous. It's like fire. It can be very, very helpful, or you can burn yourself.
Ric Edelman, you mentioned a car, and I know a lot of people on New Year's Eve today, a lot of people go out and think they're going to get really good deals on cars. A lot of times the dealers are, first of all, end of month, try to get unload some cars for their monthly numbers, but also they want to get rid of their 2015s. Where do you stand on purchasing a car, owning it versus leasing it, all of those factors?
Well, I'll tell you, the very smartest advice for buying a car is advice that I usually don't follow. So the very smartest advice is to buy a used car and keep it for 10 years.
Huh.
That's the cheapest thing. Go get a car that's 1 or 2 or 3 years old. Keep it for 10 years. That's the smartest financially thing to do. I don't do that. I tend to buy new cars myself. We all love to do that. Who doesn't love the new car smell?
Yep.
So if you are going to buy a car, then the decision of buying versus leasing is easy. If you keep your car 4 years or less and drive 15,000 miles a year or less, then you should lease, because it'll work out cheaper for you. But if you keep it longer than 4 years or drive more than 15K a year, then you should not lease, because the lease will prove to be too expensive.
Well, I agree. I do the 10-year keeping the thing.
You do that?
And I think if you buy a valuable car, I don't know Rick, you didn't talk about the quality of car. I mean, if you invest in a quality car, you can actually get away with a 10-year investment in doing it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So, especially, you get a Cadillac, a Lincoln, a Mercedes, a BMW that's 1 or 2 or 3 years old. That car is fabulous.
Right.
Man.
Absolutely.
Really fast, Rick, we've only got a minute left. What are the things, I mean, we've hit some of the big issues here, some of the big targets. What are some of the things that slip through the cracks that generally don't get focused on at this time of year?
2 things. Number 1 is insurance. Most of us don't have enough life insurance to protect our families. It's amazing how often we come upon married folks with young children who don't have any life insurance. Second is your will. Most of us don't have one, or the one we have is so old and antiquated, it's out of date, it's irrelevant. So I would strongly encourage you to talk with a financial planner, not just about your retirement investment strategy, but let them examine your insurance and your will and estate plan as well. It'll dramatically improve getting you off on the right foot for 2016.
Ric Edelman, Happy New Year to you. And, of course, you can find all of Ric Edelman's stuff, not only here on WMAL every week, but also at his website, ricedelman.com. Can I say it? I always love saying it. That's ricedelman.com.
There you go.
It's the best. Rick, Happy New Year.
To you, too. Thanks, guys.